All right. How's it going, everyone? This is Anon. No, this is supposed to be financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only. We're going to go over a couple things. So, let's kind of get everything back together. All right. So, I was covering a couple things, and I was going over. Yep, Jerry and Josh came in at the same time. What's up, Josh? What's up, Jerry? Got you both at the same timestamp. What's up, Hayden? What's up, Tanner? You guys can hear me, right? I don't have my mic off. What's up, Goat? All right. Hoping for a decent week. Yep, that'd be good. Josh said his is above his, so. All right. Let's get to the meat and potatoes. What are we watching this week? Well, I've got a couple things going on. Obviously, I think most of you guys know. Let me just see something real quick. Let's get a couple things out of the way real quick. All right, so let's go to the daily real quick on Aterian. Obviously, we've been consolidating for the last 2 weeks. Just kind of just chopping in this range right now. What I could see is obviously we're touching right now on the daily MACD on the Tyrion. So it's going to go one of two ways. It's either going to get rejected off there, take one last step lower, probably bounce off of one of the lower view apps, or perhaps somebody said if you follow Elliott waves, what they saw was they have one last spring test that they have to go through. So we would see them try to push the stock down at some point during this week, and then probably it would hit that spring and then move up. And then we may see a run to, it may not be this week, but a run up to basically 5 would be kind of the first step of that Elliott wave. Depends if you guys follow what Elliott waves or not. Some people think they're mumbo jumbo. I'm kind of in the middle. I think there's probably some grains of truth in them. But I don't swear by them. So, but it could go that way, or we could have literally just a normal crossover on the MACD, some bullish, action, and then start pushing up into the 4s and 5s. That's the first thing going. So there's that one. Then Then the other things that we were looking at were DTC does look interesting. And I want to make sure I get this straight with everyone. I'm not leaving Aterian to go talk about DTC. It's just another position I own. And the reason why I've been writing DD on it was because I've written DD forever on Aterian. There's not a whole lot new that I can cover. There's not been any new filings. Most of the people have already hit those, last week when those came out for the executives getting their shares. So there's not a whole lot for me to talk about, but this other one, I haven't wrote the DD out yet. And once I do, then I can go back to concentrating on, just back and forth. But did someone delete my comment? Where? I mean, I see all the... Tanner says, what's up? And I don't think anyone deleted it. Did I not say hi to you, Tanner? I'm sorry. All right, so... Yeah, I don't see anyone deleting it. All right, so let's do this. The goal is going to be to get eyes on all these things. I mean, obviously, Aterian, DTC, GameStop, AMC, these are meme stocks, and they're all kind of going through an interesting like spot right now. Like, everybody was all up about the executive order. I told you guys I've read it. I didn't see anything that I thought was going to be, game changing. But, if you, not AMC. Sorry, hold on. My dogs came up and he's, if you kind of compare a lot of these different stocks together, they all kind of look similar, where they're coming off of these runs. Now they're just in this consolidation period. They can't push them down as much as they want, and they also can't let them run. So like they're just kind of chopping in these ranges. You see this selling pressure, and now they're having to come back in with it. But I mean, if you look at a bunch of these all together on the daily, they all look very, very similar. There's a push down, consolidation. I mean, we're talking about like different tickers, different industries, all different things, but that they're somehow all connected. And, it's that theory of all these short, meme baskets where they just, short this entire group of, stocks all together on algos. I'm pretty sure if you pull up which one of them, BBBY is a little bit further behind, but same thing, push down, now consolidation. We should, the MACD just crossed over last week, and so we should see hopefully a move up for them as well. I do have a position in them. But, and they're basically all just kind of following, in this case, the SPY had a nice bounce there. Overall, though, I don't know how much, could we see 420s again? Sure. Yeah, absolutely. At the same time, I still expect us to fill the gaps that are sitting down here at this level. This is an area I expect to see again this year. So, could we go up here and then back down? Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of what I anticipate for this year. Let's see. What's up, Drake? What's up, Uto? Number one. Can we see $6 at the end of the year? I mean, yeah, anything's possible. We could see $6, a week from now. Who knows? But I was just pointing out that a bunch of these things tend to be running together. Like, I'll do it quickly again. Zoom in on GameStop, where you have a bunch of selling pressure, and now, hit some consolidation. Now you've made it move up. Pull up AMC, bunch of selling pressure, consolidation. ATER, bunch of selling, consolidation. BBIG, selling pressure, consolidation right now. They're a little bit behind everybody else. I just want to show you like costs, for example. Selling pressure starting to come back up, right? Like, this is a dead headphone company that squeezed when GameStop squeezed, because they went from like $1 a share to $127. That's not a coincidence. Like, all these things are tied together somehow. Here's DTC. You had this falling knife, and then all of a sudden, boom, you had this kind of like point where it just hit that spring. Now it's heading up. Will we see some consolidation? Sure. Yeah, we could see that. I mean, on the stochastic, it just crossed over. I could expect it to be chopping in this range this week, letting it even out. But, I mean, we did some DD on this already, and it looks pretty interesting. At minimum, it looks like they're 40% short, and Ortex and Fintel are not reporting the correct information. And it looks like if... I may have made a mistake, and when we added up all the insider ownership, which I can pull up for you guys. Let's see. When I was doing it, I may have messed up, because if I hit these ones right here, that's actually 53 million, not 34. So just for, S and G's, as I'll call it, I'm going to do this. I'm going to move this over here. And I'm going to put this one in as the question marks. Let's put them over there. And then I'm going to do insider ownership as that plus that. Because somebody was saying these are all Class A shares. And if that's true, then we have a problem. Because that would make insider ownership 53 million right there. And then with the free float, then here I'm going to move all this over. That would make this then. So we would take the shares outstanding minus insider ownership minus institutional ownership. That'd be a negative 11 million float. Because this actually would be the same. And then that means if you had technically this right here, right? We have 3.2 million shares according to Bloomberg. So if we were to do this one, we would take this divided by a negative float. Like, I don't even, how does that work out? Yeah, I mean, it doesn't even make sense. Hold on, let me try to figure out how to calculate that. The math's not going to work, though. Yeah. So anyway, if that's correct, though, and we have a negative float, that means that everything you're seeing is just a huge issue. Because it means there are no shares. And that if there's any sort of retail interest, it's going to spike and run. Because they don't have... That's why it might be trading like a microcap right now. So that's possible. All right, so let's do this. Anyone got questions? I was just explaining, though, what I'm seeing on DTC. And, I mean, it's possible that instead of a 7.7 million float, there might actually be a negative float on that stock. I mean, I can't find why that would, like... I was told that Bertram, Neuberger, and Oakfree are all 13Fs, and they are Class A shares. And if that's true, that would make 53 million for insider ownership, and that number is silly. So, but let's take a look and see if there's anything new on some of these other things. All right. Okay, so settlement right now for AMC. I mean, so here's the thing about AMC, right? AMC's got brute strength, and that's totally fine to ask other questions, right? So AMC has a just ton of people who have stubbornly just said, I'm going to buy this and keep buying it until it eventually explodes. And so I know a bunch of people think like there's the NSCC, I think it's like 003 rule is coming out, and it's supposed to hit in June. So there's all these people that think that AMC and all these other stocks are going to blow up in June. What's up, HG Trading? What's up, Sergio? What's up, Jason? How are the options looking this week? All right, we can go over options too on all these. I think what I'm going to do this week, though, for you guys is I'll buy a scanner. That way we can at least present scanning stuff like that tonight too. I'm just looking. Is there any other things? I mean, I obviously people think the DOJ is getting involved in all this stuff, and there's going to be MOAS will happen because there'll be criminal prosecution that comes from all this, and there honestly should be criminal prosecution that comes from this. But at the same time, I don't think that helps us right now. So let's do this. Yeah, but they're taking every sign as this is happening in June. And I'll be honest, if you look at the SPY, I mean, it's kind of set up. Like, could this be a dead cat bounce? Like, you have this leg down, come up, and then head down to this area. Like, sure. Like, I think they'll try to push up at least into the 420s at least, or like maybe this is the top of the but like we'll find out. Like I just don't personally think stochastic just crossed over. I could see a sharp drop and then kind of chill out in this area and then just down. I think there's too many problems right now in the economy and the market, and yeah, they can do bull run and just go stupid on it and just kind of but something tells me that overall we're going to see this area at some point this year. Yeah, so but yeah, with AMC, I think like personally I most of the stuff I saw from that community was basically just talking about like they are reading a lot of this stuff that's coming out with the SEC, the DOJ, and some of these rules as bullish signs that this is going to actually happen. Because it's basically, I think there's a couple of rules that just passed, and one of them is basically that if you're like a defaulting member of like the DTCC, or sorry, the DTC and the like NSCC, or is it? Yeah. Typically what will happen is before all the members were on the hook, but they're trying to basically write a rule that says that if you're a defaulting member, the rest of the people don't have to bail you out. So, and they'll do like controlled sell-offs to make sure that there's not a market crash, blah, 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 blah. So we'll see how that plays out. Yeah, I mean, if you want to just see, I know people obviously have been in BBIG for a while. Personally, I don't love their management, but at the same time, I know there's still a lot of like, obviously people that are buying and hoping that, works out. I know there's more like, there's been inflow. So, I haven't gone over their warrants in a while, but let me just see if there's anything that's new. Let's take a look. All right. Yeah, let's see. The most recent stuff is the company agreed to cashless warrant exchange, where each September the warrant exchange for 50% of shares. November warrants are exchanged for 77%, and December warrants are exchanged for 81%. Roughly 113 million shares were issued for exchange of such warrants. Must hold earlier of June 17th or shareholder approval of insurance above exchange cap. So, I mean, you've got a lot of, let's see. I'm just going through. So they still have the July convertible notes and there's about 28.2 million shares once that happens. That's Hudson Bay that's got them. They're at $4. So I'm just curious. Every time you go into the 4 range, it seems to just be meeting resistance right in this like 350 range. Like if you look, it bounced perfectly there. They cut it through here, but like there looks like they've basically been trying to keep it below 350 for the shorts. And I'm trying to see if there's any. They do have August 21 Series B warrants. Let's see, July 21 note warrants at 4. And then they do have those Series B ones at, there's 2 million shares at $2.65. Another round at $9. And 2 of them didn't register yet. Maybe that's what they were talking about. Those they agreed to go with cashless warrant exchange for half the shares. But I mean, that's a very large float. I mean, you guys are looking at like 230 million. I have like, a small position in BBIG. It's not my, larger positions. I bought them back when they were 2. Basically, I'm just down on them. So, I think I bought them in the low 2s, like 215 or 2 something like that. So technically, I'm in the red on those, but I don't have a ton of shares invested in this just because I thought the float was so high and they looked like they were just diluting. So, yeah, just for reference, like Vinco BBIG has a float of like 230 million shares outstanding. I think maybe even higher than that, but. Yeah, like to me, and just Ted Farnsworth, I'm not a fan of as far as like a leadership role. I remember him just completely killing MoviePass and the guy doesn't seem like a good the one thing he's really good at is running companies in the ground. Like they seem like they have a lot of potential and then they get run into the ground. That's the only thing I know about the guy. Maybe a really nice guy, but it seems like anything he touches, it seems to be a lot of hype and a lot of fluff, and there's not a whole lot of substance and ways of actually making money. It's like big ideas, but never actually like how to produce money. And one of the most important things I think a business can do is try to actually produce money. But I can tell you this is a pretty sizable gap. I do think you'll fill that at some point pretty soon. So, I mean, if you were to swing trade anything, if you thought that there's not going to be much more going on here, you could buy this and then, at some point it's going to fill this gap in the near future. So, I mean, that would be a pretty safe swing play. What's up, Fish? What's up, Devin? So hopefully, Dave, that answers some of your questions. In the short term, though, I mean, this is something that I would imagine it would fill in the next week or two, if not sooner this week. This is a gap that will probably fill. I think because they ended here, the gap down. So at some point, they will come back up and fill this gap. All right. Karim, what point will you call it quits with the Tyrion? As long as the company doesn't do anything crazy. Would it have to do with money flow dropping along with the price? So here's the thing. Like, at this point right now with Aterian, most people are just holding. Like, you can see, we're still very elevated because we haven't had a mass exodus of retail. Like, there's a lot of people who have bought and are just not selling. And maybe it's because they would just we could run up again and maybe everyone bails but we would see that on the indicators. We would see money flowing out of the stock again. But I think most people have bought into this because they know kind of the story behind it, and they know that there's pretty high short interest. Anything above 15% is high. And this stock at some point, they're going to either have to, let it run up so it's less, but as long as they keep it in the 2s and 3s, I mean, you're looking at like a chance for retail to accumulate. And, for me, I went long on this, like I'm at peace with, yeah, sure. I would have loved to seen like a nice squeeze and run up, but like I bought these shares with the intention that if I get the squeeze, great. But if not, then I'm fine owning this company long, because I do think they're going to recover, because at some point the shipping crisis is going to end. Like they're not going to be just, $30,000 container forever. Like it's not going to happen. That's just not the new price, and that's how it's going to be forever. Like shipping costs will come down. That will help Aterian's balance sheet, and you will see more profitability out of the company when that happens. That's their intention right now, and that's what they keep saying at all these meetings is all we have to do is weather the storm, because at some point these prices will go down. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, you buy it when it's low, and then at some point when the stock recovers, like you'll have your chance. Like you'll either be break even and you can just get out if you want, or you can wait and see if because of the reversal, and then maybe some long institutions are like, okay, this company's still going, it's still pretty cheap, might as well start acquiring. And that's what some of these guys are doing down here. They want the price low so they can acquire the shares and then go long. So. Let's see. I know you said red box is risky because of the warrants, but did you see the filing about the Class B's going to A's? What's up, Becca? I did not. Let me just double check real quick. Let's see. All right, so I'd have to read through the entire filing. I'm not going to go ahead and say that that's safe just because there's a snippet from a section. Sales of significant amounts of stock of the public market upon expiration of lockup agreements, or the perception of sales could adversely affect the market shares of our Class A commons and warrants, making them more difficult to sell equity shares in the future. So I need to read through that, to be honest with you. Like what I see from that looks like somebody's interpretation, and that's not what I go off of. I typically will just read it for myself. So that popped to 7 weeks ago. Looks better every day. Yeah, I mean, like, listen, you're going to see another one of these runs at some point. Like, it's inevitable. The stock is very, very highly manipulated. You get, this all happened, right? Then you had these 2 crazy pops here. We beat on earnings, we had a pop, and it got instantly shorted down and pushed down. And then out of nowhere, on no news, we all of a sudden went from 2 million shares traded in a day to, what was it? Yeah, this one was 3 million shares traded that day, 2 million this day. And then all of a sudden, we just got 145 million out of nowhere. Like, 161 million. Like, yeah, we got crazy volume out of nowhere, and that can happen again. So, everyone's sitting there going, "Oh my God," I'm like, you have to have patience, because this run came out of nowhere, and it took basically from here to here to actually have that happen. And that was what? That was months. So from September until May, April, May. No, it was April, right? April, like, when do we have that run up? Yeah, April 4th. So September until April was just like constant bleeding. It was bad. What stage of Wyckoff are we in? I mean, it's a good question. It's who here wants to guess? We can put up the chart and we can all guess. All right, so let me see if I can pull up that image for you guys. I'm not going to be super long tonight. I just want to jump on just so I can talk to you guys. I know, obviously, it's a Sunday and most people have a lot of stuff to do. But my hope is that, let me just go through, pull this up real quick. We can just take a look at Wyckoff and see what you guys think. Okay. So I think we're doing accumulation schematic number 2. That's our best guess right now. And what we need to do is, because initially what I thought was happening was we had this downward section, right? And then we had this run up right here, fell back down, and then let me stretch this out a little bit. So it kind of matches a little better. All right, so down, up, down, then they made a really, really big one up. But down, this one bounced up, got pushed off that, and then has been kind of been just dying in this section. But Wyckoff can go in like mini phases and then one large phase. So like if this was like one large phase, this is the consolidation range in here. What could end up happening then is, for this one, when you have the auto rally up, you had the spring down here, and then, let me put this under here now, just to show you. So I guess it would be like here-ish, right? And once again, these aren't perfect. This just gives you like an idea what it could look like. So like if you had this down, you have the auto rally up, come back, didn't make that high again, but now we're consolidating in this range. Could we be in B, moving into C? So we have one last push down, and then, we'd have hit a spring and then go back up. Or are we at this point right here where we need to hit that spring and then we can move up? And this would be like probably the 5s for Aterian. So, all right, I'm just reading. The DTC numbers look better and better. Yeah, I mean, the DTC numbers are hard to crunch, but I pulled it up, and I'll do it at the end of the video if anyone's still watching. And I'll kind of show you guys what I'm seeing on DTC, because it looks like either our float's 7 million, like 7.7, or it's negative 11 million. And they have a negative float, which is why it's trading like a microcap. They just don't want us to run yet because I think they're not done accumulating. But all right. So I used to believe in the concept of having patience for the AMC squeeze. 1 year went by, my patient went out the window, and I finally unloaded. Yeah, I mean, it all depends on where you bought in, Ozzy. Like, personally, for me, I bought most of my GameStop shares, the majority of them at least, in the, like, below 100. So, like, for me, I felt very good holding on to that, and, I bought some AMC shares back when they were, like, 5 a share. So, like, for me, I've been around, I'm able to hold and be confident. But if you bought it, like, $40 or $50 a share on on AMC, and it's been trading in the hit $9 the other day. yeah, that doesn't probably feel very good because you're down like 60 to 80% of your entire like investment. So, and it would take a lot to get back up to that level again, especially with the new float going on and all that. So, I bought under 10 with AMC. I mean, personally, I've held my shares. I don't mind unless you need that money now. I'm in for a bunch of GameStop. I don't have as much AMC. I have more GameStop, and I have Aterian and now DTC, BBIG. But let's see. Kareem, theoretically speaking, what would be the price of the stock that would be fully owned by retail and not manipulated? I mean, so the problem is this: we don't know how much retail owns. We can guess, but we don't know. Like, there's not like a thing where retail reports into the SEC and says, "Hey, I own 50,000 shares or 100,000 shares," or like there is no thing of that for retail, right? So we sit here, we have our shares sitting at a brokerage, right? But the brokerage isn't saying anything. They're not telling people how many shares of ours they have. And maybe they don't want to, right? Like, they know. They know when every single time that Aterian makes a run that they're usually missing millions of shares and they're failing to deliver. Our brokerages are the ones who are probably the most guilty of that. Like, there's probably some shorts that are having problems with FTDs, but like, our brokers, from what I understand, were the ones that were all failing to deliver. Because it makes sense. Because if retail owns like 50, 60% of the stock, yeah, like that's a lot of shares that retail owns, and they're all being lent out. Like, unless you have like a cash only, which may or may not keep them from doing it, but like as long as it's not like registered out, like DRS'd out, they're probably finding a way to get your shares onto the market, and that's why we've been at 100% utilization for all these weeks. But I don't know if there's a certain price it'd be like, oh yeah, well I can tell you down here, if you keep it sub 3, it's just a matter of time before it gets on reg show again and goes back up. So I think ATER is different from other meme stocks because it's actually a decent company, whereas AMC, Redbox are dying companies fundamentally. Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it is this. Like, yeah, they're having problems with shipping, but as soon as the shipping crisis ends, or even gets somewhat better, their numbers are going to improve. They still sell a product. They still are like a functioning company, that employs, a couple hundred people, and I think is trying to grow. Like, that's been their goal, is trying to grow revenue and all that stuff, right? That's what a lot of small companies do. They focus on revenue. They're not so much worried about earnings per share or anything like that. Obviously as an investor, you want them to make your stock more valuable, but at the same time, revenue is what they're concentrating on now. That's what a growth stock is. So, AMC, I had a problem with, just because I thought Adam Aron did a couple things that I thought were just like complete sleazeball, like typical Wall Street, and I know people, love the guy, but, to me, I didn't think they should give themselves bonuses. Like, they were the ones at the helm when all this stuff happened. Like, they were getting pushed into the dirt because they weren't adapting and making sure that they were protecting themselves. So I don't think they deserve the bonuses they gave themselves. And, they were like billions in debt. And retail bailed them out, and it continues to keep bailing, AMC out. And I hope Adam Aron, like, that dude should be kissing every single retailer's butt for years to come, because his job is safe because of retail. Like, yeah, I'm sure he would have been fine, but like that dude was at the helm when the company got driven into the ground. I don't think they deserve to give themselves bonuses, to be honest with you. So, 100% retail literally saved their company, and they're doing nothing in return. Yeah, like, I mean, they literally, like, AMC, I have proof of this. AMC was going to squeeze, and Adam Aaron literally issued an ATM into the squeeze before it started. And I'm like, you guys are gotta be kidding me. Like, I understand that's what you want to do. You want to have a bunch of buying pressure when you're trying to unload shares. You could have done that when it was $100 or $200 a share. But I don't know if they were just playing ball with the SEC or with the hedge funds, but, like, they had them on the ropes, and, you know, it is what it is. The risk reward on the Tyrion are low as they could be. If we held it to this point, they can't drop much further. Yeah, I mean, the risk right now is at the current price right now. The all-time low is 142, right? But 142 was back when they had a smaller float. So 142 at this point would mean that their, like, inventory alone would be almost the same as the market cap. So it doesn't really make sense fundamentally to get down to that level. Like, if you just look at their books, like their hard assets, you know, I can't see them getting down into that range. So, Ozzy. And by the way, I sold my Aterian a while back, but I watch your videos every night because your knowledge of how the markets work amazes me. I've learned so much since I began watching it. Oh, thanks, Ozzy. Appreciate that. Yeah, and I hope at this point right now, I'm just trying to provide information. Like, I know that, you know, a lot of us are waiting for Aterian. I know a lot of people are, you know, I'm just trying to put out information. Like, I see DTC as something that is very interesting because I think there's something going on here, and this is what I'm talking about. Let me just show you this real quick. Right, so they had this random failure to deliver, which was, let me just show you guys something real quick. So check this out, right? So this is their IPO, and they have all these FTDs, which I'm like, okay. So the IPO, and they have a bunch of FTDs. I'm like, that seems a bit weird. But, you know, they're getting driven down. Yeah, big deal. But here, look at this. All right, before they bounced, and we'll get to see these numbers later on, but they all of a sudden failed to deliver a really, really high amount of shares. And that's really unusual because if you looked at, like, for example, Ortex, I think I pulled the Ortex numbers on this before. Yeah, here. All right, so Ortex is, you know, the cost to borrow is, like, tiny, and here. Yeah, but look, like, cost to borrow is really low, you know, tiny amount of shorted. Like, there should be no reason why you would even have these failure to delivers, but yet this huge spike comes, right? Yeah, something doesn't add up, right? And then I'll show you guys the sheet again, right? So I told you guys I was running the sheet. So you've got these Class A shares, right? So you've got these Class A shares right here, 63 million, and that's what's being reported by all the different, like, sites, right? All right. You also have Class B shares, and they are actually the same voting rights as the Class A shares, but we don't count them towards the float, right? So what ends up happening is you sit there, and normally what you do is you take insider ownership and you take it away from your shares outstanding. Most of the time you don't have A's and B's. Some of the stocks do, but in this case, this stock has A's and B's. But we're only going to concentrate on the A's right now, right? Excuse me. So for your float, you would take away insider ownership, right? So I'll pull up a calculator so we can just do this live and just so I can show you guys, right? So if I'm sitting here and I take 63, 400, 772, and I take away 34, 103, 17, right? That leaves you with 29,297,455,000. So that should be your float, right? Your free float would be if you took long institutions away from that as well. So I calculated up all the different ownerships that are not inside, and came up with 21 million in this section, right? Now here's the issue, right? I made a mistake here, I think, which I made the number match the ones that were coming up on the news article. But what I didn't look at closely enough is if these are really Class A shares down here, owned by these ones, all of these together added up is 53 million. That means if this is really 53 million here for insider ownership, and you have 63, right? That leaves you with a float. It's tiny. All right, so let me just show you guys. We'll put it back over here. All right, so if we do the math on that, right? So that would be 63,400, 772 minus 53,253,851. That would be literally a float of like 10 million, right? And then you have these institutions that are sitting there reporting then that they have 21 million, right? So if you take that number minus 21,561,226, you have now a negative free float of like 11 million, right? Yeah, we actually went through, Nathan, and we saw on the so DTC's investor relations did not get back to me, which I'm a little bit disappointed about, to be honest with you guys, because Aterian's was really responsive. Like, I wrote them and he wrote me back within like a day. I wrote DTC last week and did not hear back from them at all. I think I wrote it on like Wednesday or Thursday of last week. So that was a little bit disappointing that they didn't get back to me. I can double check just to make sure. But I'm pretty sure as of... Yeah, I haven't gotten anything back from them yet. But yeah, like, if this is correct, this is a huge deal then, because... Let me just see. Yeah, like, imagine this is correct. What's going to end up happening is you have, like, no liquidity in the stock. And so you're looking at, like, basically all these people are like, yeah, I own shares. But really there's not enough shares to go around. And retail is just starting to figure out this. And now maybe they were just in this accumulation zone, right? Where they were like, okay, we hit our spring, now we'll accumulate in this area. Well, retail might have screwed that up, and, because they gapped up this day, and they filled the gap here, and then we've been running up, but, where do we finish? 521. But yeah, we ran up all the way to like 6 something, right? No, not 6, 575. And now we're back at 521. When numbers don't add up like DTC, I feel like the new numbers will come over and screw retail. That's why I'm not investing in it. I just have a bad feeling. Well, here's my thing, right? So DTC, if you actually go through their filings, they're not a bad company. Like, yeah, like, they're new, they're still growing, but like, they went from like losing 25 million to like only 3 million, which is like a huge improvement. It seems like they kind of are getting their act together. They acquired 3 companies to go along with their solo brands, and one of them is Chubby's, which actually has some market appeal and some buzz. And it's coming up on summer, which is like actually when a lot of these things will actually do pretty well. So I'm not surprised to see the institutions we're adding going into the summer, because where the stock price was, this could be like a runner for a lot of these companies that are going to be losing money on the SPY, and so they're going to have to find other ways to, make their investors money. That's what hedge funds do. Yeah, like if this was a stock that like was just getting absolutely like torched on their balance sheet, that's one thing. these guys aren't. Like, so that's the reason why I think it's interesting, is because, it's not a, like, the shares outstanding are small. They have a float that's the size of, like, Aterian's, essentially. Or not float, but shares outstanding is about the same as Aterian's. Yeah. Just seeing if there's anything new that's coming on here. Yeah, they've got a line of credit also, so. Chubbies are the shit. I cracked up when I found out they own them. Yeah, I mean, so I think they could be a rebound story. The only thing that I see on them is their cash is low. So, that's the only thing that, like, I'm like, okay, like, everybody's got their own weakness. Tyrion's for a while was the cash, and then they did the private placement. These guys, they do need cash at some point, but at the same time, they just acquired those big things. That's what they spent their money on. Yeah, but they're an interesting looking company. So, I mean, their ownership from, like, the top 25 institutions, or just top 25 institution ownership is about, like, 80 to 90% of the stock. So that's always interesting when big guys own the stock, because they don't typically invest in stuff that they don't think is going to go up. Like, on the other hand, Tyrion's ownership was high and then it lowered over time. And now retail owns most of it, whereas this stock is mainly owned by institutions. So just throwing it out there. But I said I would keep it pretty short to my wife. So I just want to show you guys this, though. Regardless if it's this or if it's this, that would be about 40% short interest. And it would be ridiculous, whatever it is here, if that is true. I mean, you're looking at, like, over 100% short, obviously. So yeah, that's what's going on right now. I'll update you guys. I'm gonna try to figure out more. I want to get clarification from DTC themselves, because I want to find out what's going on, because you shouldn't see so much or institutional and insider ownership to the point where it's over the entire float. So. Yeah, it sounds similar to Tyrion. My fear is that we get the same exact thing, where retail owns a bunch of the stock while institutions get out for profit. I mean, that's always the downside, because you can't predict when institutions are going to sell their shares, right? But in this case, it does look like their balance sheet has improved, and so the short thesis isn't that high. The difference between Aterian and the stock is, even though this is a high number, it's not actually that many shares. Like, for them right now, they could cover this and no problem, not lose a ton of money, because the stock price is already, like, it's pretty low compared to where they were. I think, what was at the beginning of this year, they were at like 30 or something like that. Yeah, 23, sorry, not that high, but yeah, they hit a high of 23. They're mainly trading in like the high teens, and then they've just been bleeding. Hit a low of 366. Now they're kind of consolidating. So, I mean, the indicators look like they're about to go. If you look, TTM is actually about to cross over bullish. You might actually see this blue for the first time since back in, was that January of this year? Like, they've only had one, like, I wouldn't even count this because it doesn't even cross over. Yep. This has just been bleeding this entire time. So you had one spot where, and you didn't get the, like, confirmation either, So that's what I want to see. I see the money flow going up, though. That's always good. We were oversold here. Crossed over on the MACD for the daily, so let's see what goes on here. But yeah, you guys have a great evening, and we'll see. I mean, like this is a stock that I'm gonna watch, and I've already invested some in this. So, hey, and I'm pretty sure you discussed this already, but I never caught it in the live stream. Is there any talk about DRSing with Aterian? So here's the deal. I DRSed my original shares way back last year. And I was hoping other people were going to follow, and nobody seemed to follow along. Whether it was, I don't. Most people were like, I don't want because it's not like computer share where you can sell the shares through computer share. With Philadelphia Transfer Agent, or I think the agent company, whatever they call it, they are not able to do that. So you have to transfer your shares back to a brokerage, and that can take obviously a day or two. So for a lot of people, my point was, okay, well, if I don't want to sell the stock, if I don't want to sell Aterian down at the 3 level, then I'm fine for it taking longer. But, everyone's got their own thing. And one of the hardest things, GameStop people have been trying to get people to DRS their shares forever, and now they're, I think, at, what was the official number, like 12 million shares, something like that. But yeah, you would hope that every single one of them would do it, but not everyone has. But I did it for Aterian. I hope that other people would do it, because it would take away this. Imagine if you DRS'd your shares back when this was running, right? And then these guys didn't have all this ammo, right? What would happen? We'll never know, because nobody was DRSing their shares. But it is what it is. But yeah, I've done it. I've left instructions on how to do it, Andrew. And if you don't like where the stock is, and you're sick and tired of watching short your stuff over and over and over again, you can DRS your shares and just sit back and wait. That's what I did. So, all right. Anyone else got anything? I got about 2 minutes left. Then we can go upstairs and watch Stranger Things and go. All right. Let's see. Go look in the DTC channel. I posted the short data. Let me see if it's any different from what I saw. Just to double check. DTC. I don't see it, Fish. Where's the Bloomberg stuff you were just talking about? Don't you do that. Don't you do that, Kareem. Don't give me any. I don't believe you. It'd be like Ron Burgundy. I don't believe you. All right, guys. Well, you guys have a wonderful evening. I'll see you all tomorrow. I'll keep digging into this DTC thing to figure out what's going on, and I'll go ahead and I'll take a look at if anything's changed on Aterian. Obviously, for some people, I just need to, I haven't sold any shares. People are like, well, you moved on to something else. I'm like, yeah, I can invest in more than one stock. I also own Amazon, Tesla, IIPR, Switch, a couple other Switches, SWCH. I own a lot of other stocks. Just nobody wants me talking about them for some reason. So I just was talking about this because that's what people seem to want me to talk about. But I own a lot more stocks than just one. It's funny reading about Reddit. Oh, Anon's pumping something else. I'm like, they were like saying the Tyrions are pumping up. I'm like, I haven't sold anything. I haven't dumped at all. Like, I buy companies when I think they're undervalued, and I hold on to them. That's what I do. Like, I bought Amazon years ago. I bought Tesla years ago. I bought IIPR as an IPO. I bought Switch as an IPO because I do my homework, and if I go long on something, it's because I think there's potential there for growth. And I've been right on pretty much all of them. Like, I don't have too many duds. So far, Tyrion's been my like biggest dud, but at the same time, I think there's still potential. You know, they've just been getting like a bunch of like bad luck over and over again since everything started. Like, you know, every time they were gonna like take that next step, they just get hammered down by some other like current event. Like, you know, we finally thought we were going to see the spring test. We're probably going to go back and test these things. And what happens? Like, oh, apparently World War III is happening. So we have, you know, Fed talk. We've got invasion. You know, fourth quarter earnings come out. We finally move that thing up, and then we lose all volume because the entire stock market's crashing. And it's like, well, that's great. So, yep, Amazon split tomorrow. That should be exciting for a lot of people. I mean, your stuff's still worth the same, but more people can buy it, and typically you'll see a little bit of buying pressure because of that. So, all right. Besides that, I think I'm good. I'm just going to go ahead and double check to make sure there isn't anything else that's new or exciting. Anyone else got anything? All right, let's see. Just reading the last bits. All right, yeah, if you can like the video, that'd be great. I'm not even going to do our normal thing, but if you want to join our Discord, it's free. Bunch of really smart people in there. If you're new and you haven't, you know, ever been in there, completely free, and just go hang out, talk to a bunch of other people like trading stocks, and here we go. There you go. I do have a Patreon. It's probably in my profile, but did you just say ATER is a dud? No, I'm saying it's not ran where I thought it was going to. I thought Aterian was going to bounce back at an earlier level back here. So here, this is when I entered Aterian, right? I ran in on this one, and then I went in long fundamentally around here. And I thought that they were going to reverse around book value. And from there, it continued to bleed down, which that's when I was like, something's going on with this, and that's when I was like, the short interest is gone. In comparison to Amazon, Tesla, IIPR, and Switch, yeah, sure. I mean, this is probably like, as far as percentage wise, this is one that I'm still red technically, because my average right now is in the low 4s, so I'm still red on this stock. Whereas the other ones, even though they're down, I'm hugely up on them. Like, I'll just give you a reference point. I bought Amazon. I have to go back a lot. Can I zoom up from here? No, I probably have to go to the weekly. I can't even go back far enough. I have to change this to like, I don't know, like a monthly, or let me try. I bought Amazon back here, right? That was about 15, is that right? 2015 or 16. I bought it for around $600 a share. So obviously, even at like $2,400, I'm doing pretty well on Amazon. IIPR, I bought them at their IPO. So I bought them at their IPO right here, and I actually bought them on a dip, and I got it for, I think, like 15 a share, like around 15 a share. And at one point, it would hit a high of like 288, and I'm still up at like 133. So, yeah, I'm a lot of these stocks that I picked out when they were young, like I bought the dip this entire time and then averaged down, and now I'm extremely up. And that's a Rob Roy company. Tesla, I had bought them back here. Like literally, I paid. I think my first couple shares of Tesla were back in the like 60s, 70s. So, yeah, in comparison, yeah, ATER is a dud compared to what else I've bought long for growth stocks. But I do think at some point it's going to move up heavily, which is why I'm in on it. You know, I saw potential. You know, I knew that it's hit these highs. I knew right here we were looking at like a short squeeze. And then since then, I've only seen more manipulation. So, like, yeah. I think this is probably the hardest one as far as like the other ones just gradually went up. Fighting against a active short that's trying to run this into the ground is obviously very, very different than Tesla was actually being shorted heavily at the time. So this is similar to, I feel like a Tesla where like all you see is bad news articles. You'd never see any positive press. But what they need to do is they need to figure out how to weather the storm. And at some point when they have some bullish news, the stock's going to fly, because if they are making money again, the short thesis is dead. And at that point, they'll start covering. And that's what happened with Tesla. At any point do you dump Aterian? If I see like a massive like sell-off in retail, then sure, like I would probably but like at these price levels, it doesn't make sense. Like most retail aren't dumping out at this level. Like you're more likely to see retail selling back in pockets of liquidity versus like, you know, like there are people that bought in this range. So you're more likely to see a massive drop off in this range around here between like the $8 and $12 range when people are like, okay, I'm back even or slightly profitable, than you are to see people selling down here. Like at this point right now, if you've held the stock from all the way up here to down here twice, what's the point of you selling? Like it doesn't make sense. So, yeah, like I would be watching in this range up here once we get to like, you know, once we cross over the 10 to like 12 like range, I'd be curious to see what happens on the indicators, you know. But at this point right now, I think the company's undervalued, and as long as my average is there, and so if the stock is sitting there at like $10 a share or $12 a share, right? And I'm now profitable because my average is in the fours, I'm not selling this stock unless like it ran to like $40 or $50 a share, and then all of a sudden I'd be like, okay, well, I'll probably trim back and then I'll buy back in later on. So, but at this point, no. Like unless I saw a massive, massive thing, you know, occur, and I'll tell you guys what I see. Like, I mean, none of this is financial advice anyway, so it just, you know, I'll tell you what I'm seeing and, you know, what I'm planning on doing. But at this point right now, I don't see any reason to sell in this range, you know. And if it does run to, you know, $40 a share, then yeah, I'll probably trim some position and add back in when the stock price drops down and just keep going long. So, okay, so hopefully that answered some questions. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going anywhere. Like, I've held stocks for a long time. I mean, one of the worst feelings I ever had was watching GameStop go from 500 plus. I think it was like up to almost like, I think I bought a share. I'm pretty sure I bought a share at like 500 plus on GameStop. And then I watched that plummet down to like 38 or 40, like within a couple like days later. So, yeah, like that's another one where I'm just adding to. Like GameStop, like I think they're going to figure out something. They've got too many smart people working on the same problem, which is how do we create a new sort of like niche thing that we can do within the gaming community. And the NFT thing might be the answer. I mean, if you can figure a way of like somehow getting gamers to basically all go through you to basically provide, something they can use across all gaming platforms, all sort of like, some sort of thing like that, that'd be awesome. Like NFT loot, and there's a lot of possibilities. So that's why I think they're doing something interesting over there, and they've got a bunch of really smart people. So we'll see if that risk pays off. But usually you don't have people quit jobs at Amazon to go to a dying retailer. It's typically not the career path most people take. And they recruited a ton of people at GameStop when Amazon was at its peak. And you're going, well, why the hell would somebody leave Amazon for, GameStop? And the answer is because they have the potential of, actually doing something really, really interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying you don't usually get C-level executives leaving the biggest company in the world, or at least one of the biggest companies in the world, for peanuts and to go, so. Hey, and I missed the hour, but I'm here. Love the non-financial advice. Yeah, just me just talking about stocks. So, but yeah, you guys, obviously you see there's been a crossover. They did have a little bit less volume here, but I'd like to see that momentum crossover. I mean, we're still on the both indicators. We've crossed over. This is starting to grow. Hopefully we'll get a nice week at a GameStop, and yeah. All right. Doesn't Aterian have people from Amazon? They've actually landed 2 people, I believe, on their board. One of them was on the board, and the other, I think, the CFO, did he have background in Amazon? I think he did at one point. So yeah, they've landed a couple of people on the Aterian board and the executive team that have Amazon experience. So that's good. I mean, that's what they need. They need a lot more of that, and to get smart with a lot of stuff too. What do you think Aterian's true value is? I mean, so Morningstar has them at, I think, $12 a share. I think that might be a little high, to be honest with you. I mean, if you took out all the short interest, then sure, yeah, like this probably would be trading if it was like a normal stock that wasn't the target of shorts. Yeah, it could trade probably in the 8 to 12 range right now. I would say at this point right now, I think their book value is a little low, in my personal opinion. So, fair right now could be like 6 to 8. And then like I'm being way more conservative than a lot of the like analysts are. Most of these analysts' average, I think, is like 8 to 12 or something like that. But I'll go conservative and do like 6 to 8. And if you're buying it at, $3 a share, it's not too bad. What are we at now? 306? Yeah, like $2-3 a share, and this is a stock that's probably worth 6 to 8. Yeah, like no, this is like just buy the stock when it's down. Like if it dips below 3, just keep buying. That's what I'm doing. I'm not telling you guys what to do. I'm just telling you what the process in my head is this: if this thing's worth $6 to $8 and it's dropping into the 2s, and I know a year from now this is a stock that's going to be worth $6 to $12, yeah, I'm going to keep buying it down here. So I sent you some great intel if you trade crypto. Yeah, Rocky, I was going to say I'm slow on the weekends. Typically I'm with my family, so I don't do a lot of crypto trading, especially not when my wife's sitting there going, what are you looking at on my phone? So appreciate the heads up. I probably, if during the week, you send it to me all day long, but during the weekends, I'm typically with my family, so not going to do that. All right. I'm out this time. I went 10 minutes over. So you guys have a great evening. I will go ahead and see you all later. And then make sure if you're not part of the Discord, come and join us, hang out with us, and it's free. So one last link, it's there. All right, good stuff. Have a great night, guys.